is Method Black. We already have Nagrand all ready to go. We're going to jump down and kick off Championship Sunday. Who will be able to take the first game of the day? MyWay or Method Black?
Ooh, very interesting pick here from Method Black. It is going to be Swapsy on the Destruction Warlock, Waz on his Warrior, and then Chaz on that Mistweaver Monk. I think this could be a very solid answer. All three members are very durable, but we'll have to see how aggressive MyWay really can be in the matchup. Hydra's going to be positioning on top of Chaz very early on. Warbanner dropped down by Waz, very nicely done to disrupt the crowd control. Swapsy doing a good job as well, trying to get counter pressure with his Infernals early on. Let's see how Hydra responds to this.
I mean, Method Black just totally owned MyWay. They warbannered the fear, they ate the freezing trap, they totally shut down the initial aggression. And as the Discipline Priest team, I mean, that might even just be the end of the match. Hydra now caught into a fear. Kasu, very low on health, has to use his exhilaration to heal himself back up. Tony trying to lead the charge for his team with that Berserk, but the Dark Soul is way more scary from Swapsy. Tony getting swapped to Survival Instincts has to be exchanged here. Finally, some crowd control landed onto Chaz. Swapsy stunned up, but it looks like he's running the Imp. He was able to dispel the freezing trap. He got through the 50-50 on the entangling roots. Now the Life Cocoon will stabilize Swapsy, and it's MyWay on the back foot.
I mean, it definitely is at this point, and that is not the position you want to be in as the jungle. Waz just kind of bouncing around, getting pressure on all three targets, making it difficult for Hydra to decide who he wants to heal. If Hydra pushes into the middle of the map, they're going to attack him because they do not want him to cross. They do not want him to go after Chaz like we're seeing right now. Full trap onto Chaz. It actually gets dispelled once again. Nicely done there by Swapsy. And without that crowd control, I mean, how do we think that we see MyWay really winning this game? I mean, it could come down to mana. It's relatively even at this point, but I just don't see Swapsy falling down unless there's some sort of CC on Chaz. And so far, it's just all been dispelled.
I mean, they're getting unlucky. They're using entangling roots on every freezing trap, so it's a 50% chance that the Imp will remove the trap or the root. So if they start winning the 50-50s, I do think that Swapsy is going to start taking some heat. Hydra has been pumping out a lot of damage. He's moving in with that Feather, looking for a Psychic Scream. They go for the entangling root Psychic Scream, but will it be enough? Freezing trap lands, warbannered for a moment. They get Unending Resolve. Nice pressure here from MyWay, and Hydra has excellent mana efficiency this round. I was expecting him to be a lot more lower on mana at this point into the game. If he can maintain this efficiency, they are working through the wall that is Method Black's defense.
That's really nice. I mean, like you kind of mentioned, I guess it does really come down to that 50-50 on the trap dispel. If they land the trap and it dispels entangling roots, all of a sudden Chaz is sitting crowd control. See how that happens. Chaz now into a stun. Do they get the trap? That's the question. Hydra getting pressured, though, quite a bit. Reluctant to use his defensive cooldowns. Just going to be holding on to them, pushing forward, looking for a fear. Can he land it? Unfortunately, does not land it on Chaz. Chaz gets just a little bit of movement to get out of range, and now it's going to be Hydra, who is completely punished, forced to use the Rapture in order to keep himself alive. But Waz's pressure is just unrelenting. He's going to continue to chase Hydra. The question is for how long. Doesn't want to overextend himself. At this point, it's just about putting out as much pressure as possible for Waz and Swapsy. They just have to survive, do damage to convenient targets, and that's kind of their win condition at this point in the game. MyWay, they're going to have to try to find these crowd control chains if they can. Hydra very far away right now from Chaz. Going to be looking to reposition and try to get a fear out of the trap. Unfortunately, the trap gets dispelled, and now Hydra in the midfield is a bit out of position.
They've lost like 5 out of 6 50-50s this game. During critical moments, too, where they have Swapsy low and no unending resolve. This is a really unlucky situation for MyWay at the moment. Can Hydra keep his team up here? He's doing an excellent job. As a Discipline Priest, you basically never want to press Shadow Mend in this matchup. It's just going to run you out of mana. You need to focus on keeping Power Word, Shield, and Atonement on 3 players, so you have Trinity active at all times, and you heal exclusively with Penance, Smite, and Power Word Solace. If Hydra can manage to keep his team alive with only those 3 spells, his mana will maintain long enough that they could find a kill. They do have decent damage over onto Waz at this point. Chaz trying to sustain themselves. Tony gets stunned up in the leg sweep, and this is where Hydra has to make a tough decision. Does he go for the Shadow Mends? He activates the Vitality Conduit instead, and has to use that Powered Solace literally on cooldown. If he's not using it on cooldown, his mana will not remain in a healthy margin. He gets caught in a fear by Swapsy. Although Swapsy is not in the most comfortable position, has to be Life Cocooned from Chaz. If Hydra keeps playing like this, he's sitting very far back for a drink. If he gets some mana here, Swapsy has to gate to stop a drink. Now he will not be able to use the gate to escape to safety. A full freezing trap has landed. Chaz doesn't look like he's going to win the 50-50 on this dispel. Waz goes for a triple fear. It stalls the damage for a moment into a double mortal coil. Good deflection between Swapsy and Waz during that crowd control to deny a lot of pressure from MyWay.
I mean, definitely Swapsy right now. He does get topped off, but the pressure from MyWay, it's been solid in this match. I could definitely see them winning this one. We've just stepped foot into dampening as Waz pushes forward, getting some pressure onto Hydra, kind of forcing his hand and forcing him away. But they're actually going after Waz. They get the trap on Chaz. Waz could be in some trouble here. Does have the die by the sword. Does he have to use it? He gets lower. It does look like the Avatar shield will be enough. Chaz gets the heals he needs, and I mean, taking down a warrior is not easy. Waz is likely just stacking as much versatility as possible. He's playing Dark Iron Dwarf, which really helped him in that last setup. And as a result, I mean, Chaz didn't really have to trade too much. Kind of wasted damage onto Waz, and now he can play really aggressive onto Hydra, getting the pain suppression. Hydra really struggling to top himself off. We have the Infernals rolling here for Swapsy. Can he land any damage? Looking for a Cataclysm to just put Immolate on all three members and really start that rot pressure. And I mean, you can see how taxing this is right now on Hydra's mana as it gets lower and lower. MyWay is definitely on a clock right now.
Ooh, nice pummel on the Penance. Very important to interrupt Penance as it's such a low mana cost. Hydra's trying to move cross-field to get crowd control. He lands a Psychic Screamer. Are they going to push through on any resolve? Unbelievable!
Oh.
MyWay pushed right through Swapsy's defense and pull off a win right before Hydra was going to be out of mana. And they take game number one.
I mean, this isn't really a game that you necessarily expect them to take either. I mean, from the very start, Sid, you're pointing out so many things that just make this matchup so hard to be setting up anything. First of all, you just have an imp that can deal with trap. You got to have to win the lottery and hope that it hits the roots. Zico, let's talk about just how hard it truly was for MyWay to be able to pull off this first victory.
Well, like compositionally, well, let me check. Compositionally, I feel like they're able to pull something insane off here at the side of MyWay because much like, you know, you guys already talked about it a little bit, this is a good draft from Method Black. You know, you got Ward Banner, you got a lot of disruption on that warrior, you're gonna have the Warlock that dispels, you know, with the imp, and then you're gonna have that warrior Warlock kind of outlast synergy, you know, that consistent pressure that's gonna drag, you know, the priest mana bar you know, to zero. And that's exactly what Method Black wanted to do in this match. They just wanted to attack Hydra if he was pushing out for fears, you know, keep up good pressure on the Feral and the Hunter, survive all of the setups, just keep Swapsy alive, and then win on mana. But they never were able to do that just because MyWay, they came in and brought the heat here. They had really, really clutch setups, and a lot of it is those 50-50s with the root and the trap, of course, and also just Hydra being there at the right time, actually getting those fears. I think Waz has to shut down Hydra. Anytime he leaves the pillar, he needs to immediately try to slow him so that he can't get that follow-up fear onto Chaz, because if he does get that follow-up fear, that's when the setup all of a sudden from the jungle is going to be extremely scary.
How reliably do you think they're going to be able to pull off a victory like this, Zico, just so we get an idea of what we expect the rest of the series to look like?
I feel like it's quite unlikely, especially on the larger maps, just because it's much harder to land the fears there, and I would expect us to go to a larger map. But with that said, as long as Hydra can keep his mana bar relatively good, they can always, you know, there's always that factor with the jungle, like they can always get that really big setup, have the damage to back it up, and all of a sudden make you overuse your cooldowns and put you behind.
Yeah, well, you heard it from Zico. One of the key things we're going to have to be looking for throughout this entire series is going to be looking at Hydra, seeing what type of fears he can get off. And the mana issue that you already brought up is something that Sid was talking about quite a bit throughout the cast. Sid, you basically said, we're in a position right now, when we look at Hydra, we know that he really can't be throwing out Shadowmens, for example. He really needs to be relying on things like Penance to stay in this.
Yeah, I mean, he's built his character in a way that he's actually running what is normally a Shadow Priest Azerite trait, the Death Throws. He's stacking that 3 times, and this also amplifies the damage of his Purge the Wicked, which is a talent that turns Shadow Word Pain into Purge the Wicked. And this is just a great way to maintain your mana. This is what Disciplined Priests were doing early on in Battle for Azeroth, before the second season, where priests were kind of just getting owned by DKs. This was the build that they ran with Death Throws, and they went that Trinity build, and they could sustain their mana for a really long time. It worked out well for him in that last game. Also, a lot of healers are opting to run this trinket. Maybe it was really underrated before, because I feel like nobody was using it. The Fangs of Intertwined Essence.
Is that what that was? I was like, is he using Lucid Dreams right now, or like what's going on? I saw the animation of that a couple of times, but that truly seems pretty good.
Well, it feels to me that as long as healers have mana, you're going to be able to sustain through pretty much any damage, barring a big mistake, letting in Demon Soul Chaos Bolt going off. So it makes a lot of sense that these healers are opting for that mana efficiency in these matchups, because if they can bring the game as long as possible, it is extremely likely with Vitality Conduit that they're going to be able to keep going as long as their blue bar is full. So keeping that blue bar up as long as possible definitely seems to be the way to go.
All right. Well, we know that Method Black is a team that tends to have they're pretty much like the Batman of World of Warcraft AWC teams, right? They have pretty much everything. If you give them enough time to plan, they can win any fight. Do you think that they're going to need to break anything else out? Because Zika, one of the first things that you said was you felt like they had a pretty good answer in the draft already.
I think more so just gameplay wise.
Okay.
It's what they need to swap out. I don't think they need to swap comp, but the thing with Method Black is, like you already mentioned, they are Batman, They can just open up that utility belt and check, okay, what should we use here in this fight? Probably could win, with any of those tools, but they will always want to get that, highest percentage that they can possibly get.
I sometimes fear for a team like Method Black that they have so many compositions, so many options, that maybe they spread themselves too thin sometimes, and, a matchup like this, I mean, we've already seen them struggle against jungle earlier on in the week. And obviously this is something they had to have been practicing, had to have been preparing. And the fact that they actually lost game one, knowing, Hydra was only going to play one composition, right? Like, we're only going to see MyWay play the Discipline Priest jungle pretty much exclusively. It's kind of a bad sign. They locked that in. Didn't work out for them in game number one. It could work out, but like we talked about earlier on in the game, they were actually getting kind of lucky with the Imp Dispels. Like, I actually don't think that game was, unlucky for them or anything like that. It seemed like they were actually getting the favorable dispels on the traps, keeping them in the fight, and I feel like it could be the exact opposite in the next game. If they're not getting lucky with those trap dispels, they might just lose right away.
Sid, some catch your eye?
They have, I'm literally just looking at the gear and the talents, trying to figure out what they've done, and it's completely different. So Casu is running an honor talent that I swear I've never even seen used one time. He's using the hunting pack, so his aspect of the cheetah is half the cooldown, and it also gives your allies 90% sprint, so he can sprint Hydra to get fears.
Super
because
good.
Normally, the danger of the priest is that you're waddling at the monk to fear him. So Casu is sprinting him to get him in there and getting the fears. That's
You want to know the
actually
funny?
really cool.
You want to know the funny thing, dude? When we were queuing and I was overcorrupted, I was hunting back the entire time. I love that honor talent. It's so sick, dude. It's actually the most metal hunter talent out of all of them, dude. I was playing it every single game.
With a druid, right?
The druid. Oh man, sorry. Well, now, Sid, I helped you get used to that honor talent, so you'll be ready to cast it. MyWay going to Blackrock Hold.
Wait, why did they go to Blackrock Hold?
That's Method Black's choice.
Yeah, why did Method go to Blackrock
yeah,
Hold?
it seems
Do you think it's turbo
weird.
time?
It's
think
gotta
it's
be some
turbo
sort of
time?
glitch for
Turbo
sure.
time.
Is it turbo time?
Actually, I spoke with Hydra a little bit about that matchup, and that's when I kind of asked him about the Mistweaver thing as well, and he said that he thinks that they can beat Turbo, but they need a little bit of practice against it. He said never fought it before. It was literally our first games against it, so caught him by surprise, and that's when I asked him about Mistweavers as well, because I know he has been practicing one. And he said that...
Oh,
It is.
There it is.
Time.
Oh,
I called
there
it.
That's a great call, man.
Healing
actually-
stats in the chat right now, trembling. I do want to bring up, though, the thing that Venruki said just a few seconds ago. Talking about, and this was something that we criticized Method Black for a few seasons back even. They have so many answers sometimes that they almost can overthink things and beat themselves. But how do you feel about Turbo coming out here, Venruki? Because you were kind of one of the ones who saw this being set up.
Well, when we saw Wildcard Gaming play Turbo, it looked really good. That's the reason why MyWay is in the lower bracket. They lost to Wildcard Gaming. They lost to the Turbo Cleave. and it was pretty convincing as well. That being said, I mean, this insider information we're getting from Zico, where, MyWay is actually really optimistic about the matchup. They think they can win if they got a little bit more practice, and maybe they did get that practice. And I mean, if it's a situation where Method Black is saying, you know what, if Wildcard Gaming can do it, we can do it as well. If they played even just a little bit worse, and maybe MyWay has a little bit more experience, we could be seeing, MyWay actually walk away with a victory here. So we'll have to see how well Method Black really does play this.
All right, we're about to get into this one. I think that, we see the first game. It seems like they already had that compositional advantage. You talked about some of the things that happened with luck not necessarily going out of their favor when they're going for that 50-50 play to actually remove the traps. Is there anything like that to look for this time on the side of MyWay? I really do want to talk about how these win conditions have changed before we do get to Blackrock Hold, Zico.
Well, the main thing for Method Black here is going to be the same thing. Survive the setups, try to, do a lot of damage to Tony. If you can hit Hydra as well, hit him, try to just drain Hydra's mana as quickly as you can and survive the setups. And the main thing we got to look for, I think, is going to be Swapsy. If Swapsy can get good Tremor Totems, for example, if he's going to be the target and he can drop a Grounding Totem and eat the trap, or a Tremor Totem, before Hydra Fears or as Hydra Fears. Things like that is going to stop a setup completely, and I think that's going to be very important. And then obviously Waz as well, going to have to do a good job kind of disrupting Hydra, preventing him from even going for those fears, and also just, having good defensive fear, defensive stunts, etc. I think for MyWay, it's going to be really hard to get that big long CC chain that we kind of saw in the last game. That's going to lead to a kill. But if they do get it, I think taking down an Enhancement Shaman is going to be a lot easier than taking down a Warlock.
I do want to say, just for the record, Method Black has Swapsy, and Swapsy is kind of like, one of the founding fathers of, Enhancement Shaman, Turbo Cleave. So I think if anyone's going to be able to play this comp at like an extremely high level and kind of guide his team, Swapsy is definitely going to be the man to do it, because when I think of Swapsy, I actually think of Enhancement Shaman, Turbo Cleave. So this could definitely be a good thing for Method Black here.
It's one of those things where, Swapsy's value is always pretty high, but you see those stonks rising very quickly when you see the potential to play Turbo, right? This is a composition that we started to see more and more. Funny enough, I feel like this weekend, all of a sudden, just Shamans in general have started to be broken out, whether it is Enhanced, whether it is Ellie. And now we get to see...
Even Resto.
Yeah, true.
With the Ineffable Truth.
Okay, that didn't work.
But it's true. Like, it still got broken out, right? I mean, it brings
but it lost. I mean, you can't be that stoked about the Resto Shaman. I mean, even Absurge went to a Paladin.
I'm pretty sure. Come on, man. I'm pretty sure it was Zico. Like, after we saw the Resto Shaman, who said, "I hope I never see a Resto Shaman again."
It's one of those things where I want to be excited. I want to be excited about the Restoration Shaman, but I haven't seen anything yet that's got me super stoked about it.
Yeah. But I feel like a conversation that we've had off camera about a million times when we're just, kind of just talking about stuff, and you talk about what is the best class historically. Like, what is the one
Shaman.
Class who's always win? Yeah, it's always Warlock or Shaman, but just the best class ever, the highest performing class ever. It feels like any time when it matters the most, you're just going to have a Shaman pop off or have a Warlock pop off. And right now, we've definitely been in a reality where Warlock seems more than powerful. And for Shaman to step up, not entirely surprised, but it's time for Blackrock Hold. Once again, MyWay is trying to make this jungle cleave work. They were able to pull it off in the first game by playing out of their minds. Hydra had to be incredibly mana efficient, and they needed crisp setups based around Hydra's fears to be able to find that victory. Now Method Black, even though they had a good composition in the blind, has decided to make a change. It's turbo time, baby, and they got Swapsy, one of the best to ever do it. Is it going to be enough to tie up this series?
Swapsy is literally turbo, man. I can just imagine him in the armor right now, flying around, getting ready for this match. We'll see. I mean, MyWay, definitely not an easy matchup for them. We already saw them lose this matchup against Wildcard Gaming, but let's see how well practiced they are, if they can adapt their strategy, and how this one will play out. For MyWay, it's going to be about those consistent setups. They need to get the crowd control. They need to get the burst. If they cannot, Method Black will slowly but surely whittle them down.
Let's see what they can get done here. They've never fought a jungle or a turbo before on the first day of the European Cup #2, but now they've got experience and they've got some time to think about it. Perhaps this composition won't even work for Method Black. Already a freezing trap lands onto Chaz. Waz down to 50% health. Activating that Dark Iron Dwarf Racial, trying to soak some hits. Now paralyzed onto Hydra as Chaz looks to rotate the crowd control around. Waz swapping to Hydra. Big power play by Method Black, going after the Priest so suddenly. Will Hydra survive the onslaught? Rapture Powered Shield's not looking powerful right now. Ring of Peace out of the barrier. Hydra's defense has been totally blown out. Looking for some heals, gets interrupted on his Shadow Mend, goes for the penance. He's getting in position to go for a Psychic Scream as soon as he can, but he is taking a beating while he waits to do so.
Yeah, taking quite a bit of damage. I mean, look how much mana he's already burned through, down to around 65%. Now Trap onto Chaz. These are the setups we were talking about. They can get the crowd control. It's going to look good. Hydra moves forward, but it gets caught into a Storm Bolt, into a Hex. They're doing everything they can to deny this fear. And it looks like Chaz will be able to escape, and Chaz should easily be able to heal up Waz and Swapsy. And now, I mean, Hydra, this is a horrible situation to be in. He's 50% health. He's burning through mana. He's got no defensive cooldowns. And Swapsy and Waz are still just continuing to chop him up. But they cannot afford to be too aggressive here. I mean, Waz and Swapsy, if they chase for too long, it's going to be an absolute disaster. Chaz gets caught into a fear. Nicely done by Hydra. Tremor Totem has a good response from Swapsy. Life Cocoon forced out on Waz. But now, once again, it's Method Black continuing its assault onto Hydra.
So many interrupts onto Hydra. He's not getting a single cast off. Stunned at half health, looking for his Shadow Men desperately to stay in the fight here. Penancing as well. Freezing traps over. Chaz moves in to heal Swapsy. Hydra repositions. Chaz gets interrupted by Tony. Beautiful Skull Bash. Good damage onto Waz and Swapsy at this point, but Hydra's basically completely out of mana. They are going to have to win this game on the next Freezing Trap Psychic Scream, or Hydra will not be able to keep them going. Thorns activates, but Swapsy purges it off. Rapture Powered Shields coming in. They need the crowd control. They land the fear, they secure the stun, they deny the tremor, they secure the trap. They're pushing for the win in game #2, but they have to crack through the lingering Psychic Shell and Astral Shift of Swapsy, and they can't crack that defense. They ring Hydra out of his barrier, they stun lock him, and they absolutely tear in. Will he hold on? He gets Wind Sheared, he goes for the Shadow Mend, there's no interrupt, he's just not able to get his health above 20% for even a moment. He's totally tapped, and I think this is going to be the clock out for Hydra. Method Black take game 2 very quickly.
Swapsy says, put the cookie down now. It's turbo time. They're going to be able to tie this up. Zico, let's talk about how the turbo was able to look so convincing in this second game.
I mean, they just had that first setup that happened onto Waz. They didn't have to use too much on it, and then as soon as that setup was done, they immediately popped all cooldowns on Hydra, and that's exactly what they got to do. Go on Tony, go on Hydra. Whoever of them gets stunned up is going to be a squishy target. It's going to cost a lot of mana to keep yourself alive if you are one of those two targets. And they were able to just survive that last setup that MyWay got with the fear into the trap there. It was a nice setup, but at the same time, Swapsy still had his Astral Shift. He still had his Tank Trinket, the lingering Psychic Shell. Just activated that, and then at that point, MyWay was just out of cooldowns. They were out of steam, and they lost.
And
so
here's
I think Method Black is their turbo is looking kind of convincing offensively.
Yeah, I mean now the thing is you talk about being out of steam in this matchup. This is just the scenario you're in when you're in a team that doesn't have as many compositions, right? Now you kind of feel like they're out of steam compositionally as well on the side of MyWay, because the second that Method Black has an answer Venriki that's this dominant, like this answer just looks like the right answer, they don't have to switch off of it. They can just keep jamming the turbo even on the blind. Do you think that MyWay does have any solutions in any maps or any tweaks in general to be able to defeat this turbo in a few games?
Well, it's interesting, right? You can kind of talk about map size, but when you are a turbo cleave and you're running at the healer, the size of the map doesn't really matter that much because the priest movement is so limited. Basically, as long as the Mistweaver Monk, can use his basically infinite mobility to get away from the priest who's just constantly hamstrung and being purged and destroyed, I don't really think it matters if it's on a big map or a small map. I think Method Black, they must be sitting back looking at that game and saying, well, why don't we just do that game #1? And they have a big smile and they're ready to queue it up because it really seems like The Turbo Cleave with the Mistweaver is an excellent answer for Jungle Cleave, at least with the Discipline Priest. And so far, it doesn't seem like MyWay really has a solid answer. That game was not convincing at all. I mean, there was one moment in the game where they got Swapsy a little low, but I mean, he had the Astral Shift, he had the Lingering Psychic Shell, and he had a perfect response. And even if they managed to get through that and do another go, I'm almost certain that Chaz would have been able to keep him up, with a Life Cocoon or, whatever else he has available to him. So definitely a lot of work here for MyWay. Maybe they could try playing the Mistweaver Monk. I know a lot of people are skeptical of the Hydra Mistweaver Monk, but I think he actually has been playing it. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Zico.
Yeah, he has been playing it.
Yeah.
He's just not super confident in bringing out, one of his essentially worst alts against, Method Black, Wildcard, like these big rosters. But at the same time, I feel like lock in the Priest again, or at least see what Method Black does. If Method Black locks in Blind Turbo, maybe you just go with the Mistweaver,
I think that's a great answer. I mean, I'm going to be honest. He's looking, even though, he's a main Discipline Priest and he probably feels the most comfortable on it. I mean, an Enhancement Shaman and a Warrior, like, it kind of neuters his class, right? Like, they have Tremor Totem for the Fear. He's being purged on his Power Word Shields. Like, basically, it feels like a counter to what he's able to do, at least on the Mistweaver Monk. If he just has, like, his basic keybinds and his mobility, I think it's going to be a lot easier for him to actually escape and create distance and survive.
Yeah, I mean, even if his chance to actually pull off a victory seems smaller on a class that is obviously his alt, not his main, overall, when you're in such a compositional disadvantage, it might be your highest percent chance to grab a win. Method Black is going to lock in the Turbo now on the blind. Blade's Edge is going to be the map that we are headed to, all tied up. And now it is on MyWay to lock in their composition. We're going to have to see if Hydra is going to make a tweak. In Zico, I know you actually spoke to him about it. You mentioned it yesterday as to how he was feeling about playing on the alt. How prepared do you feel he actually is to potentially bring in the Mistweaver?
I think he doesn't feel ready, but I would say he is ready, because I think locking in the Priest, I just don't believe in the Priest in this matchup that much. I mean, it just gets too hard countered. I feel like it just puts them on such an intense time limit that, they have to make something happen. And I feel like even if you're playing on alt and you're not necessarily super comfortable on it, as long as he just stays back and tries to, maybe play on a big map or whatever and just let the game go late, I could see them at least grabbing a win, that way, just through Tony and Casus synergy. So I would have liked to see it, but this map pick, it could also mean that he goes Priest with Shining Force and he tries to knock people with that. And then in that case, they would have to go for Swapsy because his Fear would be the same cooldown as Tremor. So he is going to go Priest. Not super surprised, to be honest, but we'll see. I want to see if he goes Shining Force or not.
It is that thing, though, where eventually you do need to make that jump, right? So sooner or later you need to do it, and when your back's on the wall, it seems like there isn't as much to lose. But this time around, going to be tough. What tweaks, Super Tees, do you think that MyWay can make now facing the Turbo on Blade's Edge after we just saw the last map on Blackrock Hold be quite a difficult-looking scenario, to say the least?
I don't think that he needs to go the Shining Force. I think Castu is just going to play Explosive Trap, and then they can use the knockback from the Hunter, and Hydra still has a short cooldown Fear. They can use Mind Control. I mean, they're picking this map because of the Z-axis or the Z-axis, if you're American. They just want to Mind Control the Warrior off the side of the bridge, Mind Control the Shaman off the side of the bridge. They get back up, Mind Control them off again. I think that's the main goal here, is just use the Explosive Trap, use Mind Control, maybe then root a target when they fall off the bridge. I think they should probably only single target Swapsy and then knock Waz off and root Waz, maybe try and crowd control him so that they're only ever dealing with one threat. If they can get the Mind Control conveyor belt going on the top of the bridge, it could work for them if they're really reluctant on switching Hydra to Mistweaver.
All right, well, now we just got to see what is going to happen. MyWay versus Method Black. MyWay starts off by playing out of their minds. They secure the first victory with the composition that we knew we were going to see from them all the way through. Method Black then throws in the Turbo, something that we didn't necessarily expect. It looked convincing on map 2. How's it going to look here in game number 3?
I mean, that really is the question here. MyWay, they're going to be locking in their main composition once again, trying to make it work. I think it's going to be an uphill battle, but I mean, if anyone's going to be able to pull it off, it will be this team. Stun onto Hydra as Waz and Swapsy immediately push their assault. Swapsy actually getting targeted down right away. This is a much better start here for MyWay. Swapsy's going to be in a little bit of trouble, already using his Dark Iron Racial as well as the Lingering Psychic Shell. So major defensive cooldowns are forced out as they make a swap here onto Tony. Onto Casu. Big damage on Tony. He's in some trouble right now. Survival Instincts, Rapture forced out. MyWay already burning through some defensive cooldowns. The burst from Method Black is absolutely insane.
Now they're dogpiled on top of Hydra. He drops the barrier, but that can be Ring of Peace. There's the Ring of Peace. Hydra's knocked out of its defense. Swapsy's going in with that Ascendance, but Chaz gets trapped. Swapsy could be in trouble. The damage focused on the Swapsy is a lot higher this time around. Triple Fear from Waz intercepts a lot of the damage. Casso has to sit through that. We haven't seen any successful knockbacks or mind controls just yet. The map is not working for MyWay if they don't utilize that strategy. Currently holding Swapsy and Waz on the bottom of the ramp, but I want to see that explosive trap from Casuo land a knockback. I mean, Hydra needs help right now. He paint suppressions. He's already basically down to half mana. He's being interrupted multiple times. They need a knockback or a mind control. Hydra can't keep this up forever.
Oh, he's looking for a mind control. Can he find it onto Waz? He does, but it looks like Swapsy's able to purge it, but it's stunned over onto Tony right now, taking a huge hit of burst. Hydra gets caught into a wind shear, being chain interrupted. Tony's still in a lot of trouble. Vitality Conduit will be enough for him to survive, but look at Hydra. He's got no defensive cooldowns. He's caught into a stun. Every man for himself is forced out, as he is going to be kiting still, just trying to survive, trying to get away from the fight the best he can. Casu trying to land a trap here onto Chaz, trying to get that crowd control to reverse the pressure, but I feel like MyWay, they're running out of time so quickly. Hydra once again gets interrupted. His mana is almost tapped, but at the same time, Chaz, he's been burning through quite a bit of mana as well. Beautiful knock trap there by Casu, buying Hydra just a moment to breathe, but that moment is not long enough. Rapture forced out, but the pummels from Waz, I mean, Hydra just cannot top himself.
The defensive strategy from MyWay is just not there. They need to use Explosive Trap and then root Waz and Swapsy with the Harpoon or the Tracker's Net or Entangling Root, Freedom Hydra with Master's Call, and he runs. He books it across the bridge to the other side, and he needs to get distance away. He's gotten no distance this entire game, and he's got no mana remaining. Their offense looks good. They're landing Freezing Traps pretty much on cooldown. They're forcing defensives from Swapsy, but they need to focus up on defense. They need to get Hydra away from the fight. He's just getting torn apart. He's got nothing left. He's pummeled by Waz. They push for the win here. If they don't win right here and now, I don't think they ever will. They stun up Swapsy. They go for the Drestagath, but Chaz gets the Life Cocoon. Hydra repositioning, going to the bottom side. That's not where you want to be with the knockback strategy, but I guess he's desperate. Chaz moves in for the leg sweep. Waz knows it's over. He goes into battle stance. Hydra has nothing. He's on the run with the Master's Call, but he needs some roots. He needs help. They cannot just allow Swapsy and Waz to freely reign on top of them. I think if they clean up their defense on their map selection like that, it could work, but they just keep trying to race, and it's not a race they're going to win.
Do you agree with that, Seiko? Do you think it's just simply as Sid said, just not a race that they can win?
I think that there's, first, just keep in mind, this is a hard counter matchup. But
Feels like
there's
it.
still a couple of things, though, that I think MyWay can do better, and one of those that Sid mentioned is the Master's Call. I think the problem right now for MyWay is that half the time, Chaz is just a god, and he pre-vitalities every single time there's a trap happening. Like, Caster will stand on top of Chaz for 10 seconds before he's gonna trap and just threatening that he's gonna kick him, and Chaz is just standing there with ice in his vein, and every time the trap is actually coming out, he gets the pre-vitality. And it is a problem, but it's not the end of the world if they can extend the CC chain and get that full fear, because that's going to allow the vitality to run out, and then they can burst somebody down really quickly with the Drestagath trinket and everything. So if they still get the fear, it's still a good setup. Problem is they never really get the fear at a crucial moment, and that's because Waz is fearing Hydra every time he's going for the fear. He's storm bolting him every time there's been a trap. Hydra starts moving to Chaz in that trap. He gets stunned, he gets feared, he gets knocked. He just can't get to his target. And I think that's where the Master's Call should come in. If they can, combine that with some movement speed, it's still going to get purged off from Swapsy. But if you can just get a couple of, steps in, at least with all of that, mobility, it's going to increase your chance of getting a fear and a full setup and actually kill greatly.
Okay, now, when we do go into the next game, what do you think we are going to see with Matt, then, Rookie?
Well, it seemed like they liked the verticality of Blade's Edge, although they weren't able to fully implement it. Where could they go? What would be a good
Mugambala,
map?
the prophecy.
Yeah, maybe Mugambala and they play up top. But it seemed like, honestly, we saw a few Ring of Pieces from Chaz that actually really, really backfired on Hydra. So Chaz was able to use the Ring of Peace to actually knock Hydra off, and then all of a sudden he was playing on the bottom side of the map, which is pretty much the worst position he can have. Really, really unfortunate. So that's something you really have to keep in mind is you're not the only one that can knock people around. The Mistweaver Monk also has a very, very powerful tool to doing that with the Ring of Peace. We could see Mugambala, maybe Dalaran Sewers. I kind of feel like they need a small map in a way. I mean, if Hydra... It's hard because Hydra wants to get away from the fight with Master's Call, but I also feel like if they're not getting fears, there's no way they're going to win. I mean, their composition requires crowd control to win, I think.
Well, what if they just go hook point and they go monk?
Yeah.
And when they stand the monk, they just fear Swapsy.
Yeah, I think that's a strategy that could work as well. Really just test Chaz. I mean, we do know Jungle Cleaves do an absolutely absurd amount of damage to healers. Conflict and Strife, the bonus isn't going to be working against those feral stuns, so you really can burst them down. And I mean, if Waz and Swapsy want to be going after Hydra, potentially just the fears on Swapsy, like you said, Hydra just rotating defensive cooldowns, maybe he could outlast Chaz in just an all-in slugfest.
The Conflict and Strife doesn't work because the stun has a damage component, right?
Yeah, there's something that happens right now with Conflict and Strife. If a stun deals damage, so like Stormbolt, Maim, as examples, Infernal Stun, the Conflict and Strife major bonus, which doubles your defensive versatility, it doesn't trigger. So that's where you're seeing, Jungle Cleave able to blow people up in stuns a lot more than you'll necessarily see a rogue do it.
Okay, I keep that in mind as we see Method Black lock in their composition. No surprise here, Dalaran Sewers is going to be the map pick. The big moment of truth is going to be what we see Hydra lock in here. If he does go for the monk, I feel like everybody on the desk thinks they may have a chance in this one. Sid, what do you want to see on Dalaran Sewers?
I don't think they're going to play monk healer. I think they're going to play priest, and they're going to try and either do a healer race or utilize their crowd control better. I think one thing they didn't account for was Swapsy purging mind control. I really think that they didn't even consider that was going to happen, because every time Hydra went to mind control Waz, and this happened like 5 times in the game, Swaps just purged it instantly, and he couldn't get Waz off the side of the bridge. And then they're like, well, we picked this map to mind control people off the side, and now I'm not able to do that, so we're just going to lose exactly the same way that we lost. So now moving into game 3, they might have a different game plan. I think not attacking one of the melee, whether it be like you go on Waz and then you use roots on Swapsy and knock him out of line of Chaz and just crowd control Swapsy the whole time, or you just go Chaz and you put all of that crowd control onto Waz and Swapsy. You knock them away, you double root them, you play Diamond Ice Trap maybe even, and then you double fear them. The jungle has a lot of crowd control. If they just choose to not attack Swapsy and Waz and just get them controlled, I feel like they could run a Mistweaver down. I feel like a Survival Hunter and a Feral Hunter is really hard to get away from as a Mistweaver, and you have basically no support from an Enhancement Shaman or a Warrior. You got like a 3-second stun, which he wants to put into the Priest, and then like a couple of heals until the Shaman is Zoom. It's really not a lot of support. I actually think Chaz is the most vulnerable person on their team, and they can just allocate their crowd control differently.
I think so too, but I think this map is quite awful.
It's not a good one to do.
They should have done it on hook point, because a monk can actually maneuver really well on Dalaran. You can kind of put your port in the middle where the waterfall spawns. You can be behind, the box, port to the middle, and then you can use a sheet torpedo, and you're already behind a box on the opposite side of the map. You do that in 2 globals. So on hook point, you can't really do that, because once you get to the other side of the map, well, there's just a little fence there, and there's a big wall behind it. That's it. So you're going to have to run back into the melees. And I don't actually think they should run Diamond Ice. Just run regular trap, fear Swapsy, trap Waz, and go for Chaz. I think that's the strategy that they need to do on small map.
All right, well, with that in mind, this could be the end for MyWay. Method Black looking to close it out here on Dalaran Sewers. Will they be able to get it done as the gates now open?
Ooh, 2 seconds away. Let's see. MyWay, are they going to switch up their strategy? Are they going to go for the healer race? I mean, we here on the desk, really feel like that is going to be the best option for them to actually secure a victory in this match. Try to push the pace, catch Method Black off guard, and they're going after Chaz. He's taking a huge hit of damage very early on. Is he going to be able to survive? Rake stun coming in. Chaz already forced into the life cocoon, and this is what we're talking about. Jungle Cleave can do an insane amount of burst onto a healer. That was the Dark Archangel, but now, Method Black, they're looking to strike back. We need to see MyWay continue this pressure onto Chaz.
Hydra gets interrupted. They're pressuring the Hunter and the Feral. They're trying to protect Chaz. They stun Tony with the leg sweep. Castro leaps over with the grappling hook, looking to just stay on Chaz. He Vitality Conduits. They're going to wait for it to fade. No, actually, they go for the stun into the Vitality Conduit. Not a big fan. Triple Fear from Waz. That lands onto Hydra. He can't heal. Castro has to pop the Exhilaration. Chaz going to jump off the side, and this is where the map pick doesn't make sense for the strategy if they were going to run at Chaz, because now Chaz can portal. Look where Chaz is. He's literally across the map. The Feral Druid's stunned. There's no way he's getting there anytime soon. Castro is the first one to make it back to Chaz, but Tony is still lagging behind and taking quite a bit of damage. Would have liked to have seen a different map. Hydra's going all in with his mana. He's already down below half, and it's strategy and map selection right now for MyWay that's not working out. Obviously, the composition is very challenging for them, but I feel like they could have played it out better strategically. Maybe they could still win here, but Chaz pre-Fort Bruise, they wait for it. Tony falls behind. Huge pressure over onto the Feral Druid. He has to be Vitality Conduited, but they're stacking up triple damage from Swapsy. They get the Fear, they get the Trap. This is the moment where they need to try and get the kill. Like, they cut through Life Cocoon. There's some potential there. Now, with no Fort Brew, no Life Cocoon, Mind Control's onto Swapsy. They have an opening, but it is a very narrow window that they have to squeeze through.
Yeah, and they're going to keep pushing. Look at Hydra's mana. He's almost completely in 2 minutes of the game. Obviously using a lot of offensive dispels here. Here's the Maim stun on Chaz. This is their moment. This is their moment to close it out. The commanding shout coming in from Waz, increasing Chaz's health. Can he stay alive? Revival frees everyone from fear as they look to continue this push. And it looks like Waz and Swapsy, they're more than happy to just try to peel for Chaz in this match. Hydra's almost completely burned through his mana. Chaz just needs to live a little bit longer. If he can live till that Life Cocoon rotates back up in 10 seconds. But it's going to be difficult. He gets interrupted. If he gets caught into a stun, this could easily be the game. MyWay looking to close it out right here, right now. Chaz has to hold on a little bit longer. A beautiful stun coming in from Swapsy in order to keep Chaz alive. And it looks like Chaz has bought himself enough time. He's got the Life Cocoon, he's got the Transcendence, and should be able to survive.
All of Chaz's defense is available at this point. I feel like it would be a blunder for him to go down. He's going to pre-cocoon while his team is crowd controlled. The Dark Archangel is rolling. Although that defensive advantage that he had, he just blew out right there. He's going to need to avoid them for quite a long time. He lands a double stun with a double Blade Storm with the sweeping strikes of Waz, but Waz gets trapped. Unfortunately, it breaks. A little bit of a mistake there, breaking the crowd control. Kasu trying to jump back on target. Tony goes for the stun along with Hydra. They're trying to 2-on-1 Chaz. Chaz breaks out, catches a big heal. Kasu dips low, has to hop the Exhilaration, but he is still taking a beating. Has to now use the Aspect of the Turtle. Ring of Peace locks the staircase. This map is backfiring so much on MyWay at the moment. Can they even keep pushing forward? Hydra has no mana. He's got a lot of cooldowns. He should maybe consider them here. Kasu gets blasted out. Method Black find their jungle answer and advance to the top 3.
And yeah, with that, we are going to